for it.
I always believed that happiness was elusive,
A price paid in blood.
never truly within reach.
Will you help me get to it?
They gave us 8 seasons. 8 seasons of heartbreak, time travel, war, loss, and one of the greatest love stories ever put on screen. And then, in the final episode, they did something I genuinely did not see coming. Not fully. Not like that. I had theories. I had predictions. I had my tissues ready and my heart halfway braced for the worst. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what that ending actually delivered. Because it wasn't just an ending, it was an answer to a question this show has been asking since the very first episode. And once you see it, once you really sit with it and let it sink in, you realize that every single thing in this show, every detour, every heartbreak, every seemingly random moment was leading here. So today we are breaking down the entire ending of Outlander Season 8, Episode 10. And I promise you, by the time we're done, you're going to see this finale in a completely different light. Let's go back to the battle, because you can't understand the ending without understanding everything that came before it. The whole season had been quietly, almost cruelly, building toward one inevitable moment. Jamie Fraser was going to die. The show told us that. The books told us that. Frank's letter told us that. And for the entire season, that knowledge sat in the background of every scene like a storm cloud that refuses to break. You kept waiting for it. Every time Jamie smiled, every time he laughed, every time he pulled Claire close, there was this unbearable weight behind it because you knew. The show knew you knew. And it used that against you in the most brilliant way possible. Jamie knew too. That's the thing that really gets me. He didn't run from it. He didn't try to outsmart fate or pretend it wasn't coming. He looked death straight in the eye and he prepared. He wrote his will. He sat down and thought about every single person he loved and figured out how to take care of them even after he was gone. He gave Brianna almost everything: land, legacy, his name. And then he left William his whiskey and his Bible. I'm sorry, but that detail alone destroyed me because that's so Jamie. Even at the end, even facing his own death, he's thinking about the people he loves and what they need from him. Not what he needs from them, what they need from him. And William, if he ever reads that Bible and figures out the truth, I genuinely believe that man would walk through fire just to find Jamie on the other side. The whiskey and the Bible. Think about that combination for a second. One for the body, one for the soul. That's Jamie Fraser, summarized in 2 objects. So, he says his goodbyes, and they're quiet goodbyes, which somehow makes them worse. No dramatic speeches, no drawn-out farewell scenes that feel like the show winking at you saying, this is the end. Just Jamie, moving through the people he loves, steady and calm the way he always has been. And then he goes to the battle. And here's where the show does something genuinely cruel in the best possible way. He survives. He actually survives the battle. And for one single, shining, beautiful moment, you let yourself believe it. You think maybe the books were wrong. Maybe Frank's letter got the details mixed up. Maybe fate bent. Because Jamie is standing there, breathing, alive, and there is this look on his face that is pure disbelief and pure joy all at once. He thought he defeated death itself. And honestly, in that moment, so did I. And then General Ferguson shoots him, and the world just stops. No dramatic music swell, no slow motion that gives you time to prepare, just a shot, and then Jamie on the ground, and then silence. And across that silence, we feel Claire feel it, because she told Fanny exactly this, that she and Jamie are tied together by the heart, not metaphorically, literally. What he feels, she feels, and so she runs up that hill as fast as she can, already knowing what she's going to find. And she finds him, gone, just lying there still, like the world forgot to keep moving without him. And Claire's grief in that moment is not performed. It is not the kind of grief that looks pretty on screen. It is raw and ugly and real, and it gets completely under your skin in a way that very few shows ever manage to pull off. Not going to lie, I cried. I actually cried. And I don't do that easily. But something about watching Claire lose Jamie, after everything, After all the centuries and battles and sacrifices and near misses, something about that particular moment just broke through every defense I had. And I think that's because the show earned it. Every single second of heartbreak in that scene was earned across 8 full seasons of storytelling. But then the episode keeps going. And that's when things get really interesting, because the ending of this episode is not about death. Not really. It's about something much bigger than that. And to understand it, we need to talk about what Claire does next. Because what she does next is arguably the most important thing she has ever done in this entire series, and it changes everything. Here's the thing about Claire Fraser that this show has been slowly, quietly building toward for 8 entire seasons. She was never just a healer. She was never just a woman out of time who happened to have medical knowledge that was centuries ahead of everyone around her. From the very beginning, there was something more to her. Something the show kept hinting at but never fully explained. The Cherokee woman saw it. She told Claire directly that one day, Claire would reach her full potential, that everything she had, everything she was capable of, would be pushed to its absolute limit. And when I first heard that, I thought it was about her skills as a doctor. I thought it was about some impossible surgery or some miracle of medicine that would save someone's life. I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea that what the Cherokee woman was actually describing was this moment. This specific, impossible, earth-shaking moment where Claire Fraser looks at the man she has loved across centuries and simply refuses to let him go. Because that is what she does. She doesn't accept it. She doesn't sit beside his body and grieve and eventually find a way to move forward the way the story seemed to be heading. She stays. She lays down beside him through the entire night, and she works. And I use that word intentionally because that is what it looks like. Not prayer, not magic, not some mystical ritual with candles and chanting. It looks like work. It looks like the hardest thing any human being has ever done. It looks like someone pouring every single drop of themselves into one single purpose and refusing to stop even when every logical part of their brain is telling them it's too late. She resurrected that baby in seconds. Remember that. That moment earlier in the season where she brought that infant back felt almost casual compared to this. A few seconds and it was done. But Jamie is different. Jamie is an adult. Jamie is someone whose death was written into history. Frank's letter confirmed it. The historical record confirmed it. Jamie Fraser was supposed to die at the Battle of Kings Mountain, and that was supposed to be the end of his story. What Claire is doing here is not just healing. She is rewriting history with her bare hands. She is looking at destiny and telling it no. And that costs her. That is the part that really hit me, and I don't think enough people are talking about it. Because the price of what Claire does is not nothing. It is not free. You don't change history without giving something enormous in return. And what Claire gives is herself. Not her life, but a piece of herself that she can never get back. Because by the time Jamie opens his eyes and takes that breath, the breath that gave me actual goosebumps, Claire's hair has turned completely white. Not gray, not streaked with silver the way it might if she had simply aged overnight from stress and grief. Completely white. All of it. Like something fundamental inside her shifted and left a visible mark on the outside. Like her body is showing you exactly what it cost to do what she just did. And when I saw that, I didn't think it looked like a side effect. I thought it looked like a transformation. Like the Cherokee woman's words finally, fully came true in that single moment. Claire reached her full potential. She used every last thing she had, and she came out the other side changed. Now, here's what I keep thinking about, and I genuinely cannot stop turning this over in my head. Claire has always been someone who existed between worlds, between times. Between the life she was born into and the life she chose, between Frank and Jamie, between the 20th century and the 18th. She has spent her entire story in that in-between space, never fully belonging to one side or the other. And I think what happened that night beside Jamie's body is that she finally crossed over. Fully. Completely. She stopped being the woman who traveled through time and became something else. Something the show never quite gives a name to, but shows you clearly through that white hair and those open eyes and that single shaking breath Jamie takes when he comes back. She didn't just save him, she anchored herself to him in a way that goes beyond love, beyond marriage, beyond anything the show has previously shown us. What they have after that moment is not the same thing they had before. It is deeper, it is stranger, and honestly, it is more beautiful than anything I expected this finale to give us. And the thing is, the show doesn't over-explain it. It doesn't stop and give you a monologue about what just happened or why or what the rules are. It just shows you Claire lying beside Jamie through the night and then shows you the result. White hair, open eyes, one breath. And it trusts you to feel the weight of it without spelling it out word for word, which is exactly the right call. Because the moment you try to explain something like this too precisely, you drain it of everything that makes it powerful. The mystery is part of the meaning. The fact that we don't fully understand the mechanics of what Claire did is exactly why it hits so hard. We understand the love behind it. We understand the cost of it. And that is enough. That is more than enough. It was love, not magic, not sorcery, just love pushed so far past its natural limits that it stopped following the rules entirely. And I still get chills every single time I think about it. Okay, so now we need to talk about something that this fandom has been obsessing over since literally the very first episode of Outlander ever aired. Something that has been sitting in the background of this entire show like a puzzle piece that never quite fit until now. Jamie's ghost. Because if you remember, and I know you remember because how could you possibly forget, the very first episode of this show does something strange and unexplained and genuinely haunting. A young Scottish soldier is seen standing outside Claire's window in 1945. Just standing there, watching her. And then he's gone. No explanation, no context, just this young man with red hair and an expression on his face that you couldn't quite read but couldn't quite forget either. And the show just moved on like it didn't happen. Like it wasn't going to spend the next 8 seasons living rent-free in the back of every single viewer's mind. And over the years, the theories multiplied. People analyzed that scene frame by frame. They debated the timeline. They argued about whether it was truly Jamie or some kind of echo or a vision or something the show planted without fully intending to pay off. And then the finale aired, and we got our answer. And honestly, it is so much better than any theory I ever came across. Because the show doesn't just confirm that it was Jamie, it shows you the full picture. It shows you exactly when that moment happened and why and what it means within the larger story. And once you see it in context, that very first scene from episode 1 hits completely differently. It recontextualizes the entire show in about 30 seconds of screen time, which is an absolutely stunning piece of long-form storytelling that I don't think gets enough credit. So here is what the finale shows us. After Jamie dies at the Battle of King's Mountain, before Claire brings him back, there is a moment where Jamie exists somewhere else. Not alive, not fully dead either, somewhere in between. And we see him there, young. Not the older Jamie we have been watching all season, young Jamie. The Jamie from the very beginning of the show. And he is watching Claire. And there is this smile on his face that is so genuine and so full and so quietly heartbroken all at once that I genuinely had to pause and just sit with it for a second. Because that smile is not the smile of someone who has lost everything. It is the smile of someone who has found something. Someone who is looking at the woman he loves and feeling completely at peace even in the middle of all that pain and uncertainty. And this is the part that I think is so clever and so emotionally precise that it genuinely took my breath away. Because a lot of people assumed, myself included honestly, that the ghost we saw in episode 1 was Jamie after the Battle of King's Mountain. That it was old Jamie, having just died, making one final journey through time to watch over Claire before moving on. And that would have been a beautiful theory. But it's not what the show gives us, because the Jamie we see in the finale is young. He is young Jamie, which means the ghost in episode 1 was not Jamie after King's Mountain. It was Jamie after Culloden. The Battle of Culloden happened decades before King's Mountain in the timeline of this show. And Jamie died there too, in his own way. Or at least he was supposed to. And in that moment between life and whatever comes next, young Jamie wandered. He found Claire, he watched her, and he smiled. Think about what that actually means for a second. Think about the timeline of it. When Jamie stood outside that window in 1945 watching Claire, she had not yet traveled through the stones. She had not yet met him. She had not yet fallen in love with him, or fought beside him, or built a life with him across 2 centuries. From her perspective in that moment, he was a stranger, a ghost she didn't even fully register as real. But from his perspective, she was everything. She was the reason he was there. She was the person he had crossed time itself to find, even in death, even without a body, even without any guarantee that any of it would work out the way he hoped. He found her before she found him, and he smiled. And then he let her go. Because he already knew, somehow, that she would find her way to him. He already knew about the stones and the flowers and the life that was waiting for them on the other side of all that time. And here is where it connects to something Jamie says in the finale that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. Before he goes to the battle, he tells Claire something that sounds almost casual in the moment, but lands like a freight train once you understand the full picture. He tells her he will wait for her in purgatory, that he has been there before and it is not so bad. And I think most people heard that as Jamie, being brave and dry and quietly funny even in the face of death, which is exactly who he is. But I think he meant it more literally than it sounded. I think Jamie knows something about what happens after death that he has never fully articulated to Claire, because he has been there. He was there after Culloden. He wandered, he watched, he visited the stones, and he came back. Not in the same way Claire brought him back at King's Mountain, but he found his way back somehow. And that experience, that time spent in whatever space exists between life and death, gave him something. A kind of peace about dying that makes complete sense once you understand where it comes from. He is not afraid of death because he has already been to the other side and found that it is survivable, that love survives it, that he and Claire survive it. And that knowledge is what lets him walk into that battle with his head up and his heart steady and that quiet smile on his face.